If you are an account manager or you're a virtual assistant, you need to understand how the quick audit process works. There's two components to the quick audit, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 does not require access. Part 2 does require access. Access comes through the access checklist, where we get access to their Google My Business, their Facebook ad account, and their Twitter, their website, all these other components that we audit via the one-page QA access checklist to make sure that these components are done. If someone is a lead or they haven't given us access, we can run through part 1, which does not require access. This is where we log into Vendasta and we run a snapshot report across 6 areas. You can look at the templates that we have on how we paste in the snapshot report data, but I want you to understand the strategy behind why we're doing it. The first part is we look at their listings, and their listings are their name, address, and phone found across all the different directories. There is a listings scan that you want to be able to look at that shows how we're doing across these different directories, because if this listings data is not correct, then we can't tie everything else together across that particular chiropractic office. So think about the listings, the information that they have about them, kind of like almost like a phone number or social security or an identifier. It's primarily NAP, which is name, address, and phone. The listing scan tells us how the name might be spelled slightly differently. The address is slightly different, or they don't have a listing inside Yahoo or Yelp or Yext or Google or Bing or Info USA or Axiom or Yext or all these other providers that are combining data together. So we want to make sure their underlying data is together, because then we can tie in the most important piece of content, which drives rankings, which is reviews. We're looking at Yelp and Google primarily, but there's other sites that also collect reviews. We know that when chiropractors have 50 plus reviews at 4.8 stars or higher, they tend to do well. But of course, this is relative to how they're doing in the market. If you do a search for chiropractor and their city name, look at who shows up in the top 3. Usually those folks who have the most reviews at the highest stars and also recently are going to rank higher. There's many other things as part of search engine optimization, but without having good reviews that tie back to, that anchor back to that listing, we don't really know if we're the search engine, if that particular business, that particular URL deserves to rank. As part of this, we want to know if they've claimed their Google My Business listing. A lot of businesses haven't. When you run the snapshot report and you find that there's not a category or a lot of information's incomplete, it may be that that business has not claimed their business, which is what we want to do inside Google. Because once we do, then we can add more information. We can correct things that might not be right. But it's very easy to find when there's reviews that have not been responded to properly, or they don't have enough reviews, they don't have a review strategy to be able to have a process where they're constantly collecting positive reviews from customers. The next piece is we want to look at their website. Google My Business and reviews and social media sites are all driving traffic to the website. And the website is going to have certain issues, like it's not loading fast enough, or there's not enough content, or they got spam attacked on Viagra, or they have plugins that are causing the site to not work properly, or they don't have a phone number that's easily accessible. Maybe it's an image instead of text. There's problems that can be on their website that even if their listings and reviews are solid, they're sending a message to Google saying, this website is not worth crawling because it has all these different problems. Mainly, it doesn't load fast enough. It doesn't have enough information relevant to a search on migraine Seattle, and it doesn't have links from other sources, meaning it doesn't have links from local newspapers or other businesses. They're not generating traffic from LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube especially, which is a Google property. So we want to know, how is this website doing? Are the mechanics that are broken with the website that are causing it to just not show up? Next, the whole point of the website is to show up in search results. And the organic search results are called SEO. So the act or the result of search engine optimization is getting more traffic. When we look inside their Google Analytics, when we look at their Google My Business and see how many times they've been visited and see how many people have left reviews or are creating content or clicking like on things, that's a sign that our SEO is working properly. This is organic. This is free. This is a result of our content marketing efforts. which is why we create 1-minute videos, create blog posts. These are more shots on goal for SEO. Then we want to be able to see their advertising. And the main point of advertising is we know that it's a pay-to-play game. So we have to run ads on Google and Facebook. Even though from an SEO standpoint or from a listings and reviews standpoint, we might already rank very well on the keywords that they want to rank on the particular conditions, lower back pain. We still want to buy these keywords because competitors can snipe us. And at anywhere between $4 and $10 a click, that can be expensive, but it also can be worthwhile if we are able to convert that traffic well. So advertising, we're looking at their top keywords in their market to see what the competitors are doing, how much money they're spending, and whether we even have a presence. Most of the time, chiropractors don't even have any ads, so we can look at how much traffic they are missing, missed opportunities with potentially hundreds of people that are searching on that particular condition, but we are just not showing up because our SEO is not strong enough, so we have to be able to run ads. Last part is we're looking at remarketing. Remarketing is not available for every kind of business because of restrictions on Google and Facebook, but for chiropractors, we can do remarketing, meaning if someone has been to our website, if someone has watched a video that we've created on Facebook, are we putting a pixel in place to be able to track those people and then be able to send them follow-up messages? If they watched a video on what do you do when you have a splitting headache, then we want to keep showing them more information about that, especially if they've shown interest and watched that video for 15 seconds or more. That's another opportunity to build in more touches, to build that relationship that will eventually result in a customer. These are the 6 components of the initial quick audit, which we call a snapshot report, that do not require access. We have a template for including these items that if you're a virtual assistant, you can quickly fill out and grab these components, especially the listing scan. And all of these have a grade. So maybe it's C and B and A and B minus and D and C, and maybe the total grade is a C minus. We're able to tell people how they're doing objectively because this score is based not on some arbitrary factor, but based on how they compare with other chiropractors. And thus, if you want to get an A, you have to be in the 90th percentile or higher. So everything's objective. We know that, for example, the website score is largely based on Google's own page speed insights, their tool saying, how does this website look from Google's perspective? So if you're an account manager, learn how to be able to talk about each of these particular components using the snapshot report as a conversation tool. Not as an ongoing tool, but as a conversation tool as part of onboarding or the initial client conversation to be able to talk to them about what it is that we do at Chiro Revenue. And based on what we find is working or not working, why is that the case? And then what do we need to do based on that? That particular framework is called metrics, analysis, action. We show people metrics. We give them analysis of why that is and put it into context from a business standpoint. In the action, here's what we need to do. They're definitely going to be able to participate. That is a logical way to convince a chiropractor to do business. It's not a sales technique. It's a consultation technique, which they understand already as doctors, which is the collection of the vitals, like the x-ray and the blood and other things you might get, their blood pressure, the analysis, which is we put the x-ray up and we say, hey, based on this is what's going on in the body. This is our interpretation based on our professional experience. And the action is the treatment plan. Okay, well, based on this, Mr. Tristan, it looks like we're going to have to do this kind of surgery, or you need to take these kinds of pills. You need this kind of exercise plan. We're going to have to do this kind of adjustment. We're going to have to put this insert in your shoe. What is it we're going to be able that we need to do? So the idea of collecting the vitals, doing the diagnosis, and then saying having a treatment plan is the same as metrics, analysis, action. Thus, imagine you are a doctor. So if you're an account manager and you're learning how to talk to chiropractors, imagine you're a marketing doctor. You're wearing a lab coat and you're running through these particular components because the virtual assistants have created this for you, and you're able to run through the properties natively. You're able to click into the actual snapshot report, which we ran. It can be an older snapshot report. That's okay. You're able to look at their website and use things like Chrome developer tools and Ghostery and the Facebook Pixel Manager, the Google Tag Assistant, You're able to do a Google search on their keywords. You're able to see who's advertising. You're able to see if the competitors are doing remarketing. These are all things that you can do natively, even if you don't have a snapshot report. Even if for some reason, maybe you just met somebody and you didn't have time to say, hey, I need to have a quick audit done. Can you prepare this and give it back to us the next day because I've got a meeting coming up? Even if you don't have that, you can go through all these items yourself because a client wants to know that you care. They're not going to ask all these weird questions about, yeah, well, this other guy on SEO said that he could do this versus that, or he has this special technique on how to rank, and he said he can give me a first page ranking on chiropractor Los Angeles by next week. They're not going to come in that way. They already trust who we are. So your job as an account manager is be able to explain what happens inside the quick audit, how all these pieces fit together to be able to drive them more traffic, which then we're going to drive more clients to them that then they close. That's the first part of the quick audit. Second part of the quick audit requires the access checklist. Once we have access, now we can actually go into the Google Analytics and see how much traffic are we actually getting. Then we're able to put in conversion tracking because we want to see how many people are filling out forms. How many people are calling us because we might put in our phone number in here? How many text messages do we have because we're going to start a reactivation campaign or automatic lead nurturing? How many people can we get from a Facebook campaign all the way into booking an appointment with us where they've made a prepay, for example? To be able to get someone actually into the office and paying, not just someone filling out a form, not just someone engaging on a blog post or clicking on a tweet. Now we're looking a little bit further and we're starting to do MAA. If you are not a junior account manager, but maybe you are standard or you are advanced, then you can start to analyze the data to figure out, based on the Google Analytics, it looks like you're doing really well with these YouTube videos or the Instagram posts you're making. You should try to do more of that because it's driving more patients. Or you're able to listen to them and they tell us what's working based on the kinds of services they offer and programs. We're trying to figure out how do we get more? How do we analyze this? How do we analyze the analytics on Facebook, the analytics on YouTube, the analytics inside our own dashboard to be able to provide a more intelligent response on what kinds of things that they need. The second part of the quick audit also provides the executive summary, which is something that you write by hand saying what is your overall assessment of how their business is doing. So this is where you were talking about their metrics analysis action, which is business goals. So how much traffic, how many leads, how many patients, how much revenue. And if we don't have that yet because we don't have the Katana data or their ChiroTouch data, that's fine. But let's think about as far as we can get with the data that we do have. And we want to then tie that to their goals, content, and targeting. So when you have a strong executive summary, which is a summary of all the things that we have here, the most important points, we're going to say, how are we doing against their business goals? What do we need to do based on what's working or not working? And then what combinations of content and targeting do we need to implement to be able to drive the system forward? All of the recommendations that come from metrics analysis action, the action of the recommendations, are all around content and targeting, meaning they produce content, we produce content, and then targeting is putting it somewhere so that other people can see it. So publishing or running ads is effectively an extension of targeting, which is part of the SAE. Then we're going to track all the results via the social amplification engine, the 6-phase process that whether you're a virtual assistant or your account manager, you're going to need to understand this 6-phase process. Every month or perhaps every quarter, we want to implement a success tracker. The success tracker is a more in-depth view about how we're doing overall. We're looking at GSD, getting stuff done. What did we do? What are we going to do? And what happens, or what do we need from them, right? Which is called a dependency, a task that is not in our control, but we need something from them like access or content. The quick audit allows us to give the client a full summary and picture of where we are. Certainly you can go deep in terms of all the different tasks that are possible in the SAE. Certainly there's lots of components inside the success tracker where we could look at all the different programs and focus in on their decompression machines, which could be a whole project by itself, or getting stuff done. We can zero in on any particular task. But the main point of this quick audit is to say, client, we are here. We've looked at what you have. We've gotten some access And here's some quick analysis on what we see is the low-hanging fruit, the simple things that will drive us results if we do these. And over time, we will start to be able to provide better results. If you're a strong account manager, you're looking at their stats once, twice, or 3 times a week. You're looking at the videos that they're submitting. You're looking at the different campaigns that are happening with other people that are running campaigns or creating content, and you're tying all of it together so that you can provide a weekly report to the client so they understand what's going on. It doesn't mean some giant report. It literally is something that you can write out in 5 minutes, just a few bullet points. You don't need a template for this. And then a 1-minute video just saying, Dr. Lee, I just wanted to let you know that everything's going well. And here's the report that shows you the different things that we did last week, the things we're doing this coming week, and a couple things that we still need from you. I hope you're having a great time in Hawaii. Whatever it might be, right? A simple 1-minute video that accompanies a 5-minute summary of what's going on. And in the process of going through these checklists that we have already as part of the social amplification engine, fixing things that we identified as having problems here. So anything that is a B, C, or D, we want to be able to fix, that generates more tasks. So what we know about do, delegate, delete, which is getting tasks done, or team management to get tasks done, which is communicate, iterate, delegate, is that the act of doing work, the act of communicating generates more tasks. So if you're a virtual assistant and you see that we have a new client that came in on a quick audit and the account manager had a great meeting with the client, posted the meeting minutes saying, it was so great meeting with you. And we noticed that based on this, this, and this, that we're going to have to fix this, this, and this. And then here's some other things that we see that are part of the SAE. So we're going to start kicking off creating videos. We're going to start interviewing customers. We're going to collect reviews. We're going to start running ads on Google Ads on these particular keywords, because those are the items that you told us as part of GCT that are important. You as a virtual assistant can anticipate when these things are about to happen. Now, if you're a virtual assistant where you're at a level 1 and you're just doing one thing in a queue, you're just editing a 1-minute video of a particular type, you don't need to understand this. But if you're a virtual assistant and you're up at level 3 or 4, where you now are able to do multiple kinds of tasks in multiple queues, then you can start to see across all these other components and you can start to help the account manager deliver more results. So that when you're putting, let's say, for example, you're putting together the quick audit part 1, because we don't have access yet, you can start to add in some of these little bits that you know that we're going to be able to say. You can start to tune the analysis almost like what I might say or an account manager might say, because you know it's the same things that are triggered when this situation happens, here's what we typically say. When a client produces this kind of content, this is what typically happens. Or when we watch a particular video, we can coach them and say, you know, when you create a video like this, here's what the issue is. When you have a website that doesn't have a video on the homepage, here's what we say about this. When we have content that wasn't boosted, then here's what we need to do to be able to catch up. When they've not posted on any of the social networks for 3 or 4 weeks, here's what we know we need to do. And so when you're aware of where the most common issues are, you can start to level up, whether you're an account manager or you're a virtual assistant. The quick audit is how we kick things off. It's how we set up the process. So we set expectations for the client, we set expectations for other team members, and then we expect that this is going to roll into the retainer. So we have a process on how we do analysis, how we assign tasks, and how we go into regular execution so that as we're driving results, we're able to do a lot more. So in some sense, the quick audit never really ends, because every week we're continuing to look at things that we want to be able to improve. But understand that unless we establish the framework of the quick audit in the beginning, the client's going to say, I signed up for this program. It's a couple $1,000s a month, but what happens next? I don't know what happens month to month. I don't understand what their framework is and why they're doing what they're doing and how come they're spending money or not spending money. So a lot of this is also to set expectations for the client. And a lot of it will also be buying time, because our ability to drive traffic and rankings through search engine optimization typically takes 3 months. There you have it. I hope you enjoy the strategy on the quick audit process. Now I encourage you to take a look at the documents and the templates on how we actually produce the quick audit. Strategy behind the quick audit. Let's talk about the templates and what we're needing to fill out. Every document is driven by the asset tracker, so we know what the most recent version is. And then from the document, we embed training. So you can see below that we have a training video on how to fill out a quick audit. Here we have Basecamp links on how to get more training behind these. Understand that a template is not a mindless document for you to fill out, to copy and paste. It is there to assist the account manager when they talk to the client to give them the most relevant, interesting components as you learn from the strategy. We're always executing according to the 6-phase social amplification engine. And you'll see that we have notes and highlights so that you can fill out these particular components as you see in this template. This template, we've not filled out the client's name or who prepared it or their particular Basecamp project because it's a template. We want you to update these items here. For example, update the date. In a moment, I'm going to show you one that's filled out properly and what the differences are between one that is done well and one that is not. When we collect the goals, content, and targeting of a client, we want to look at the specifics of what they have told us, whether they told us in a call or an email, or we can gather it from their site. Most of the time, we can gather these components from the site. If you're an account manager and you had one of these quick audits produced for you, you might notice that sometimes the virtual assistant didn't fill out a particular component or there's an error. That's okay. For example, here, you can see in this template, it says, business goals must be quantifiable and actionable. Of course, that's not what we're going to include in the client version. This is instruction for the virtual assistant and the account manager to know how to use these items. And you may see notes below here on how to use these as well. Sometimes we're going to put in screenshots. So if we have a form, in this case, a GCT form, we might put in a screenshot of that. We might put in a screenshot of their strategy assessment or other components. And a lot of this is going to be screenshots of their snapshot report, for example. And we talked about how to log into the Cairo Revenue Vendasta to run that snapshot report. Some things you don't want to do a screen grab of, and that's going to be the access checklist. So here it says screenshot of access checklist, but we're not going to do that because we want to make it easy for the account manager to click on the items in the access checklist, to click on the Google Ads account, to click on Google Analytics, to click on their website, to click on their Facebook public figure page, to click on their Twitter and be able to go right into it. If it's a screenshot, we can't click on it. So if you're a virtual assistant, think about how do we make the account manager's job so easy so they look good. And we've highlighted the most important things that are going well and not going so well for our chiropractor client. And that requires us not just to go through these checklists looking for things like missing an HTTPS site-wide pixel or missing video on the homepage, or they don't have a lot of good reviews. Those things are easy to determine because the snapshot report determines it. Through the checklist, you can determine whether something's happening or not happening. But I want you to take the next step as you're doing it to think about, what does this mean for the client? So if we see they have negative reviews or not many reviews, why is that? What might we do to improve it? So we're constantly curious and thinking about metrics analysis action. You can see here that we can paste in the items on why their website is loading well or not, but maybe take it a step further and think, what does this mean in terms of how we might make their content, or how we might get content based on what you already know about the reviews and what they're about and how they've been in the news, right? Don't just paste in these items, because if that were the case, we would automate the whole thing and we wouldn't need account managers and we wouldn't need VAs. It's that human touch that's beyond the basics of what a robot would look for that makes it interesting. Now, certainly parts like this, like mechanically pasting in their Instagram or their Twitter, that's easy to do. It only takes a few seconds. We will automate that eventually. But some things here, like auditing the performance of an active campaign, we want to see, what is their average cost per view on a video? How often are they posting content and how much of that is video content? What's their engagement rate? How much of the traffic is coming to the website? And some qualitative pieces, which is what we want you guys to focus on. So think about how you can add value and be interesting. Here at the end, we have the teammates. We want to show pictures of the teammates because we want them to show that we personally care. And it's so much better to do business with people that you know care about you versus a robot that just says your name and gives you a bill and prints out a bunch of items, which might be correct, but just doesn't feel like a human. This is the template version. And anytime we have a document to share, we start with a template version that doesn't have client data. Now let's look at an example of one that does have client data. This is for Dr. Addison Belosin, who is from the specific chiropractic center in Maui, Hawaii. And you can see we filled it out with his information and his actual Basecamp link. Notice this is a link so we can go to it and see the information. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like from the presentation view. Now pretend that you are the account manager giving this presentation. It's not that you want to walk through every particular component and bore them for a whole hour. You want to show them the highlights and at least show them that we have a process here so they understand here's what we're doing step by step. And we might take the extra step to show in advance that we already collected their content. Maybe it's a fancy hands request to be able to grab their top positive mentions and put it into a content library and score it by authority. Or maybe it's something our virtual assistants are grabbing and us thinking, well, I'm not just grabbing the top things that show up in Google. I'm grabbing the things that I think I might want to use to be able to promote their practice. Watch some of their stories. Watch some of the things that the customers are saying about them and put that in here. This is what a computer isn't going to do a good job at. That's why we need you as a virtual assistant or as a account manager to be able to pull up these items. And you can tell what is good and what isn't good. A computer's not going to be able to tell. Pull up the best items of their content. That's the main thing that we're doing so we can start to run ads against it. Now, the client might tell us that their best client loves to work out and is a mom, and maybe that's the case, but let's let the data tell us what's working. Let's look at the keywords that are drawing people in based on maybe YouTube ads that we're running and people that come in to watch our content on Facebook, on Google because they were searching. What are those keywords that they're searching? On pain, on headaches, on fitness, and how to live longer, how to get more sleep. The more content we produce, the more data we're going to generate because the more traffic we're generating, the more boosting we're doing across Google and Facebook and whatnot, the more we're able to determine the pattern of what is drawing people in. So it's content that's giving us data for targeting. What we don't want to do is have targeting be something that's subjective where the client is just making it up, because they might be correct, but they might miss certain components. So notice here that we're thinking about their goals, content, and targeting and what it is that we're going to do. We always want to be clear with them as a business owner of what we want them to do. And some of these templates you can see here need to be tuned up because here there's an action plan, but we have another action plan a little bit later. Or maybe this is the summary because this is the overview of goals, content, and targeting and what we need to do. This part is templated. You can see action plan on 3x3 video, 1 minute video, $1 a day. But we're going to modify this because we're going to include their Google My Business to get more Google rankings, to get more reviews, to run reactivation campaigns, other kinds of campaigns. So when you see something that needs to be tuned, say something because that's going to help your teammates. That's going to help other account managers and other VAs. And we're always tuning our training. There's always ways to make it better. We don't think this is perfect by any means. You can already see there's issues, small issues here along the way. Now we're pasting in components of their snapshot report. Most of this, of course, we can just paste it in. But think about how, especially in the executive summary, we can make this a little bit more interesting. Some of these pages here, you don't need to add a lot of careful thought because it's deep inside the document, but you might add just little pieces here. For example, highest performing video is the one that's pinned on the page Aloha Friday. And that's what people like, the friendly Hawaiians where they're singing and hanging out and hang 10 and going to a barbecue. Think about what that means. And we can see here the performance of some of these because we have insights, which is a part 2 of the quick audit. Where you're going to want to tune these documents the most is in the beginning, which is where we have the executive summary, because the first impressions count and the first few pages of any document are the most important. And then the last page or two. It doesn't mean that we want to be slipshod or careless across the the pages and items in the middle, but we want to focus more on the beginning, more on the end. And this just allows us as account managers to be able to have conversations to say, well, where are our relative audiences? It looks like we're doing better on Instagram and Facebook than Twitter. That's probably where we should focus, right? Where are we getting traffic? And based on all these things, here's what we need to do. You can see here's a list of tasks. These are standard tasks. We can then show what we've done and what we've not done. So instead of bullet points, these need to be check boxes so we can check off the ones that are here. And the other thing that you learn about tasks is that they all should have due dates. So maybe we say for the first 5 tasks, these are due on November 27th. And the middle tasks, those are due December 3rd. And the last tasks are due December 15th. You don't have to be exact on what that is, but imagine if you're the client and you're presented with these recommendations, you want to know when they're going to happen. You want to know who's going to do them. So think from the client standpoint, whether you're the virtual assistant or the account manager, and you can't be far off, because it's not about following a template exactly. It's about using this as a guide to think, what is the best way we can set clear expectations to the client on what's going to happen now, what we've already done, what's happening next, what do they need to do? And you might even highlight that and change the template to where we put in red, for example, these are things we need you to do. And if you look at the meetings checklist, if you look at the success tracker training, you'll see that these are all principles of the 9 triangles. For example, getting stuff done is what we did, what we're going to do, and what we need from you. And we also want to set expectations on communication to be able to say, Thursday is your day. Every Thursday, you're going to get a quick little update from me. I am David, and this is me, right? And you can see here at the end. So maybe it's Dennis and it's Tristan and it's David, and it shows Cairo revenue, not Blitz metrics. And that's what a client wants to see. I encourage you to study the meetings checklist and the Basecamp basics in addition to this training on how to do the quick audit. If you have any questions, if there are items that are confusing, I want you to ask your team lead. I want you to reply in Basecamp. We always want to make our training better and better. We are always improving. I want you to be able to help us because I know that you're a valuable part of helping us make a better business for everybody.